From the beginning, stock cars outran the police to deliver the hooch to our ancestors. So sweet. Are you ready for a trip down victory lane, where Richard Petty's winnings were insane and Dale Earnhardt put everyone to shame? Canadian Junior Handley is in the Hall of Fame. Live from Haldeman County, it's time for the Driver in Deep podcast. Are you ready?
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us for what I think is going to be another great episode of the Driver in Deep podcast, brought to you by wingnutsports.com. Mark here along with Alex again, and our guest today is Mike James, who is the voice and promoter of Eastbound International Speedway in Newfoundland. It will definitely be interesting to get caught up on what's going on out there.
For sure, Mark. Yeah, Mike's a very good promoter. He's got a ton of experience, and we'll touch on that. And him and the Squires family who own the property, along with their team, have done a really nice job building the sport out there. So it'll be great to get a feel for what's happening out on the Rock. But let's quickly go through this. Before we get started, we'd like to also remind everybody and invite everybody to join us online on our Facebook page. Just search for Wingnut Sports and like our page so you can get all the updates.
That's right, and we're also on both Twitter and Instagram at Wingnut Sports.
Correct. And plus, visit our website at wingnutsports.com and you'll find all of our episodes. And please check out the show notes for links to both our guests and our own social media contact information.
Okay, Alex, I have a few things to say today, so you might have to give me the floor a little bit up front here. So Joni and I went to meet up with you and Sandy at Delaware Speedway last Sunday to watch the final two races for the NASCAR Pinty series. And then post-event, we went into the pits and you introduced me to a bunch of people along with some of our former guests, which was really awesome, especially, for me. We even made our way to Victory Lane, where I had a moment to meet in person for the first time the 2021 NASCAR Pinty Series champion, LP Dumoulin. And even with dozens of reporters there, teammates, sponsors, and I don't know how many other people waiting for a chance to take a photo or speak with LP, he took the time to reach out to me and thank me for what you and I have done with Driver in Deep. That was really something else, and, totally class act all the way. But I don't want to forget, I also spoke with and met quite a few of our other previous guests who I haven't had the chance to meet face-to-face before, including Pete Shepard III, and the first thing he did was give me a dig about the Buffalo Sabres, Mark Dilley, Alex Tagliani, Greg McPherson, and, of course, Luke Ramsey. And I didn't get to chat with Tony Spiteri. I'm sure he's pretty busy being the main promoter and so on. But also, of course, our counterparts, Cam and Graydon, the hosts of the Stickers and Scuffs podcast. They were really great with their time, everybody. And but I do want to mention there was a couple of standouts there. Graydon's boys, who they affectionately call the Bun Sons, they just may be a big part of motorsports in the future. Quite amazing young men.
Yeah, I agree. Those boys come up with some great questions with the guests that they have on their show. And yeah, great young guys. I met those two kids along with Graydon and his family 2013, I think, or 14 at Kawartha Speedway. And we've stayed in touch ever since. They became customers of ours at Jukasa here. So it was great to see Graydon again. And first time for me to meet Cam face to face too, so it was really nice. But like you said there earlier, how about LP, man? Is he not a great guy and a super champion?
Oh yeah, no kidding, great guy for sure. And now he's a 3-time NASCAR Pinty Series champion, and I think now he's only one behind our guest that we had on a few weeks ago, Scott Steckley.
Yeah, he is. Who knows? Maybe he's going to catch him. Plus, also, when I was catching up. When I was catching up with a bunch of guys I come across earlier in the day, my old buddy Billy Burns, who spotted for LP on Sunday. Burnsy, who he's affectionately known as, is a great crew chief, won some championships in that series with other drivers, and he's worked with LP before as well. But this year LP needed a spotter at Delaware, and he called Burnsy up, and he drops in, and for one race, and now he's a champ again.
Does that mean he gets a ring?
I don't know. We'll see.
that trophy is pretty big, so I'm sure you can share that a little bit. But anyway, yeah, that was a smart move on his part. Alex, you saw all the races during the weekend, and what did you think overall?
I thought it was great. Delaware Speedway and the staff there did an incredible job putting on a big event. I know it was been a while since they've done one that big, and good for them. They pulled it off, had a concert Thursday night, 3 days of racing. So big task, done a nice job. Just quickly, Lane Zardo won the Super Stock race on Friday night in the Quick Super Series Championship. They had their first Pinty Series race on Friday. DJ Kennington won that event. Nice last lap move to win that. And then Saturday, Oscar Hot Rods and Modifieds were there. Steve Book won the Hot Rods. Andrew Camerath won the Modifieds. And then on Saturday, Trayton Lapsevich won his first APC Tour Series event with Brandon Watson winning the APC Championship, who is now the first repeat winner of the APC Series. And as you said, you were there Sunday. What did you think?
Yeah, I also thought it was an incredible weekend. And, just the names you just spoke about, the last couple there, these kids are definitely up and comers in the sport. It's going to be hard for some of these old timers to keep them down, I think. I wish we could have been there the whole weekend, but we were celebrating, with my family. We had a wedding with my niece, Sarah, and her now husband, Dylan. So congratulations to both of you two. And this was my first time at Delaware. And I have to say, what a great place it is. I was really impressed, besides being a perfect spot for maybe a disc golf course. It was an awesome place for a race weekend. And congratulations to everybody who worked so hard to put on the Pinty's Fall Brawl. Too bad it wasn't Chicasa, Alex, but, fingers crossed.
Yeah, absolutely. Fingers crossed. We'll see how it goes, but those guys sure did a nice job picking up the slack.
Yeah, but as far as the racing goes, I really feel like, I may have passed my beginners. I guess maybe you can let me know if that's true or not. But, I've learned a ton so far. I know there's a lot more to learn, but now I'm at the point where, because I've learned a little bit, I'm really eager to learn a lot more. But, and I have to say, it's because of so many people that I've been able to hang around with, fans and supporters, that have really helped my learning curve go up so quickly. And yes, Alex, that even includes you.
Wow.
And they did try to make me feel at home with the races, though, because, there was a couple of hockey fights mixed into the racing.
Yeah. Sunday was eventful. And this isn't a knock on the Pinty Series, because I've seen this in several series before. I've called races like that before, and I've probably even caused a few of those races before. And we call those, in racing terms, a bit of a shit show. And, some things that happen that we don't want to see happen in the sport. And we're not going to talk about it today, because that horse has been kicked. And, but man, people are talking about our sport, and that's not a bad thing for sure. But all in all, like I said earlier, really enjoyed the day, and, all that other stuff happens, and, we just get better and move on.
Yeah, that's right. And, Joni and I definitely had a great day as well. And, the listeners are going to be jacked, because we're really not going to talk anything about disc golf, or the up and coming Buffalo Sabre season.
Yeah, well, hey, you just did. You had to bring it up. Listen, disc golf, I'm sure the fans will miss. They won't miss nothing about the Sabres, and really nothing to talk about till they get back into the NHL. But I don't even want to hear nothing. Leave it there. So, anyways, no. Anyways.
All right. I won't mention the Leafs are back to their old ways. They lost to Montreal last night, but anyway.
I'll delete that part out. Listen, we have Mike James with us today, as you mentioned earlier, all the way from beautiful Newfoundland, home of one of the Toronto Maple Leaf farm teams, the Growlers, and of course, beautiful Eastbound International Speedway, where Mike is the promoter, the voice, and among a pile of other jobs, I can tell you, but he's done a nice job out there.
Yeah, I know what it's like to wear multiple hats, and I'm really looking forward to hearing about motorsports on the Rock. And it seems to me like they maybe, get forgotten about sometimes, being, a little bit down east, or as far down east as they are. And yes, I said down east on purpose. But from what I understand, racing is alive and well.
We are about to find out. Let's welcome all the way from, I think he's in Avondale today, but from St. John's, Newfoundland, promoter and voice of Eastbound International Speedway, that is in Avondale, Newfoundland, Mike James. How's it going, Mike? So nice to catch up. It's been a while, buddy.
100%, man. It's been a crazy 2 years here on the Rock with the COVID stuff, but you know what? We had a short season last year. We had a great full season this year, and just still plowing through. This is our 7th season at Eastbound International Speedway, and I am not in Avondale because we don't have great internet service out there. I'm actually in the office here this afternoon, but pleasure to be with you guys, man. Love your podcast and everything you guys are doing for the industry.
Oh, that's great. Hey, Mike, it's Mark here. Thanks for joining us again on Driver in Deep. Alex always tells me about his trip out there and how great it was. And I did get to look at some pictures of the Speedway and wow, spectacular. It really looks beautiful. I was really impressed when I was looking at some shots there. But before we get to everything Eastbound, how about you tell our listeners how you got involved in motorsports?
That was kind of a funny story, actually. I was doing naval architecture, and I was working with Upper Lake Shipping down in St. Catharines. And during my schooling, one of the mechanical course that we had to do was we had to take apart a lawnmower. And so I was always intrigued with engines and took a knack to it. And anyways, one of my professors was involved with the FSAE team that competed in Detroit, Michigan. So I was always known for throwing the big parties, the beach parties, cooking the pigs, having a hot tub, filling bars up with sand. So one of the biggest problems with that race team is they forget to go to Detroit because of funding. So I started throwing off some big parties. 2,000 people started showing up for a pig, a hot tub, and some sand and some cold beverages. And we started raising a lot of money. We put together $60,000 my first year, and I became a driver in the FSAE program. So for 4 years, we competed out of Detroit. And it's a big challenge being from Newfoundland, being the most easterly point of Canada and the United States, to get on the boat and get all the way to Detroit. It's 7,000 kilometers. And, really opened my eyes. I was down there and the Andretti's were there, got to, talk to all the big four. That were involved with that event, and it was just opened my eyes to motorsports. And when I came back, I lost my father to cancer, and I didn't return to Upper Lake Shipping in St. Catharines, and I ended up staying home with my mom for a bit. And one of my buddies wanted to open a hot rod shop, so for my racing career, we ended up opening a place called Spank Autosports. Alex, that was a great name, eh? Alex.
Yes, it is.
Spank my ride. So the whole Fast and the Furious movement was on the go back in 2003, 2004. And we had an awesome time. It was a lot of friends. We were young, and we got involved with that. And then all of a sudden, I guess my resume of doing these large events, the most Canadian beach parties and stuff, I got approached by a guy part of the Slednicks, the backflipping snowmobiles, and they wanted to bring the Slednicks to Newfoundland. So I said, hey, I don't know anything about snowmobiles except for, bombing them in the woods, but we'll give it a crack. So we brought the Slednicks to Newfoundland. We did the first backflip with Jimmy Blaze Hayes. And the place was like AC/DC walked into the building. We sold it out, oversold it actually. The fire commissioner allowed us to oversell the building. And then from there, they flew to Alaska, and they met up with a guy from Live Nation Motorsports that was involved with Monster Jam, who was testing the waters with snowmobiles. And they said, you got to meet this guy, Mike. He throws a great party. So the boys had such a good time in Newfoundland that they spoke highly of me. And the next thing you know, I got a phone call from Chicago. And then the road to monster trucks happened, and I went all over the world, to Tel Aviv, Israel, and to Europe, all across Canada, this great nation, and into the United States. And I did that up until 2010. Had to come home to lick my wounds after the U.S. economy collapsed. But I finished, and my wife, we got married, and she said to me, she goes, "Are you done?" Because I used to do 256 days a year on the road, and I said, yeah, I'm done. And we ended up having 4 kids in 6 years. So I got 5 kids now. And then I met Pat Squires, and how that happened. It was kind of a funny thing. A good friend of mine who was living in Calgary at the time, who used to tour with me, with the monster trucks. He was sitting at the bar, and Pat was talking about his dream of building this beautiful brand new, track that could, bring NASCAR to Newfoundland. And he kind of said something funny to after Pat said, hey, we're talking about monster trucks, concerts, and all this stuff. So this guy Billy says, well, you need to talk to Mike James. He's heavily involved with monster trucks and special events. And just like that, a conversation at the bar, I ended up having several conversations with Pat Squires, and I turned him down 4 times, Alex. And we were having our second child at the time. And anyways, my wife said to me one night when we were in bed, she said, you missed the action. You want to go back. And I said, hell yeah, I need to get back into the groove. So I started a partnership with the Squires family, and it was just a pile of dirt out there. It was an old dirt track, and they leveled that place. And the amount of money they invested in this place is absolutely incredible. A lot of the short tracks around North America, a lot of them are 50, 60 years old. This was a brand new build. Pat Squires, who's been all over North America, he's a truist. He's a NASCAR fan. He's been to a lot of tracks, and he wanted to build something unique. So he built a hairpin, and he actually tipped the track, and it's the most unique track I've ever seen. And Alex, you've been there. It's an 18-degree bank, and it's a 14-foot elevated. So it's an uphill 1-2, 18 degrees, to a 9-degree, to a downhill 18 degrees. So we started that project, and I brought in my whole family from Monster Trucks for grand opening. It was in 2014. I flew the guys in a week before because we wanted to build a Vegas monster truck track. And the track was nowhere near being finished. And what we seen in 7 days, they put that thing together, and the final details, Alex, you're familiar with those final details. They did like a year's work in 7 days. We had about 100 people working on the property. We had snaggles with the RCMP on emergency exits and stuff. And it was just like anything that got in the way of Pat Squires, it was done. He got in the equipment, and if road needed to be built, it was built in 2 days. And so then we got involved with monster trucks and Eastbound Hoedown musical events. We've had Leonard Skinner here, Rascal Flatts, and so many top bands like Little Big Town and so on. And that took us to a phone call to Alex. And I don't know if Alex knows this, but we were in the boardroom table, and Pat is a bit old school. He's got his notepad, and he's got several businesses. And he said to me, I built this place for NASCAR. And I said, let me make a phone call. So I called Saskatoon, and I knew that at the time it was Canadian Tire Motorsports, or Canadian Tire NASCAR series was going there. And I said to him, I met him in my travels. I said, who do I talk to about bringing NASCAR to Newfoundland? And he said, Alex Nagy. I said, give me his cell phone. And with that, I called Alex Nagy, and we are on the phone, and I walk into the boardroom out of my office, and he goes, who you talk to? And I said, NASCAR. And next thing you know, Alex was on a flight, and then we became a NASCAR home track, and we've been with NASCAR since 2016, and it's been an awesome ride. So bit of a crazy career, but I don't build boats anymore, Alex. No more building ships. My mom's a little bit pissed off that I took a swing to the left, but motorsports has been great to me. Yeah, it's been a 20-year run, and it continues to motion forward. So it's an awesome career.
Wow. Listen, that all sounds really exciting, but I just have to mention 2 quick things. And Alex, I know you got some questions. Shout out to St. Catharines. That's also my hometown. So it's great to hear that. I still have lots of friends there. My dad's still there, and great place to grow up for sure. And also, all of that sounded amazing, but I think you had Alex at sand, hot tubs, and pigs.
Yeah, I could cook a bean pig. The first one I blew up, Alex. I didn't realize that you need to pop 3 Coors Lights in there to neutralize the fat. But the first one was a fat fire, and it was not a pig. But I've picked about 20 of them. That I got it down to a science now. It all takes. It comes down to the Coors Light in the belly.
Well, like I said at the beginning, and I told you before, Mark, Mike's a hell of a promoter.
Yeah.
Can you tell now?
Yeah, I can tell.
Listen, Mike, I think you covered it all, buddy. Thanks for joining us. No, listen, we talked a bit earlier in the intro how, and me and you and Patty talked about this, and Patty was determined to get Eastbound on the map. Newfoundland kind of could get lost out there and disconnected just because you're so far out and you can only get there a couple different ways. But I also know there's a ton of history there. So can you tell everybody a little bit about the history of racing, stock car racing on the Rock?
Well, it actually started in the 60s. Spence's Speedway out of Moncton, he came to Newfoundland and started the first asphalt in the 1960s. They started actually in Bishop Falls, where our sister track, we actually have 2 short tracks here in Newfoundland. The other one's called Thunder Valley Speedway. It's a nice little quarter track, and that's kind of where we pick things up before Eastbound. But Spence came over here. He was originally from New Brunswick. They started here in the 1960s. And then there was a bit of a fallout with the race car drivers, and one of the guys ended up building the racetrack in Pooch Cove called Knight Speedway, and we had 2 tracks competing against each other, and it actually destroyed both tracks. So, which is very unfortunate. I know both families, and it's just the way things went. Sometimes that happens. So it kind of disappeared for several years, and then asphalt disappeared in about 1971, and then dirt track became popular. So there was a couple of different ones. There was one out in Central, there was one in Bay Roberts, and then the Avondale Speedway was originally dirt track 3rd mile, and then it just kind of disintegrated after the Thunder Valley Speedway was built, and Pat was involved with that one. And it's still there today. So asphalt's been around since the 60s, but it took a break for about 30 years and then made its comeback. So, right before Eastbound was finished, it was a bit of a misfit of different cars, because Pat kept buying cars up on the mainland and bringing them in, and some of them were straight rail, some of them were, so many different variations that it took a while at Eastbound to sort some of those cars out, because we kind of had to grandfather some of those cars through the process.
So, Mike, do you think by having that NASCAR connection to Eastbound that it's helped link you to the rest of North America as far as motorsports goes?
We do several different things at Eastbound. We have the IHRA program, we have our musical side, but the whole NASCAR banner has been wonderful. I'm a big promoter of NASCAR, and the whole system. Like, there's some cost to it and everything, but there's so many different benefits. I think for the race car drivers, in 2016, Jason Groves went to the NASCAR Hall of Fame, the first Newfoundlander to get the champion suit and stand there in the NASCAR Hall of Fame. That's a highlight of his career, and he's about to do it twice now, because coming this Saturday, he's leading the way. We've only really had 2 champions, Wayne Walsh, who's a legend of the dirt track from the old Avondale days. He was a 3-time NASCAR champion and visited Charlotte, and it was a big deal for him and his family. The purse side, the trophies and everything else, but the advertising, the sponsorship level, a lot of people are tuning in right across I get calls all the time when we were running the Wheeling All-American Series. We had a couple of guys from that were running in the National Series that wanted to test out the waters up at Eastbound. Looking at rentals and stuff like that. The only 2 drivers we really had outside of Newfoundland has been DJ Kennington and J.R. Fitzpatrick. And Fitzpatrick, with a Newfoundland connection, is both of his families from Bell Island, and they have a home here in Brigus. So it was great to have those guys come here. But nationally, there's a lot of recognition, and the new program now, Advance My Track, it was awesome to be a part of that and showcase Newfoundland and Labrador. It's not just a racetrack. Newfoundland is a destination. It's a beautiful place. I've been all over the world, and when I moved home, there was a big reason. I just wanted to raise my family here, and it's spectacular. The air is clean, the ocean views, everything about this place is just incredible. And when you come here, and Alex, when he came down, it's an experience. So hopefully we'll see more drivers in the future, and possibly talks of pro stock, which would be the biggest thing. Right now, currently, we're only running late model racing. I think going to the pro stock level will start to attract a lot more people from outside the province.
Yeah, when we first met Mike, you folks were supporting a driver from there, Josh Collins, did a few races with us in the NASCAR Canadian Tire Series into the Pinty Series, and that's where me and you got to spend our first amount of time together. We never, man, you worked so hard trying to get a NASCAR Pinty Series race there. One of my regrets when I left NASCAR was that we never ever got that done. It was kind of a bummer for me, because I know how much you and Patty wanted to make it happen in the Squires family. And, it's just tough, but you know what? I think all the work that you did and I did somehow will pay off. You said about Pro Stock. The big tour in the Maritimes is the Pro Stock late model tour, and they haven't been there yet. So it makes me feel a little bit better, but it'd be cool to get those guys there at some point. And hopefully all of it will work out in the future for sure. And like you said, ultimately you became a NASCAR weekly sanctioned track, and I was so happy because I got a call from Daytona and said, listen, there's going to be the announcement for Eastbound, and we want you to go to the Rock and be our representative. And that was so cool for me. And I met Patty at the races when you guys came to the mainland a few times, but Mike talked about him being, I talked about him being a great promoter. He talked about his partying skills, and let me tell you, he needed to have them because with Patty and his family, it's a party all the time. Work hard, play hard, and we had a great time for a few days there. And I was just proud to be able to represent NASCAR. These guys put on a hell of a press conference, had every leading news agency there, and it was cool. It was a good time, and I thought you guys did a great job.
I got one thing that you don't know about, but actually the first official NASCAR Whelen Series race was incredible. It was a packed crowd, and everybody came up to me and said, "Where's Jimmy Johnson?" And I was just like, "Oh my God, here we go." So I'm like, Jimmy Johnson is not here. There's several different levels of NASCAR. And, but I said earlier about J.R. Fitzpatrick and DJ, one important person that I forgot, Joey McCollum was actually here as well. He's a good friend of ours, and boy, did he ever have a time here in Newfoundland. We had his race car down at the bar on George Street and pulled out the red carpet. So, but it was a lot of fun. When we took part in the Pinty series, we talked about a full-time schedule. I was in Toronto doing business development. Josh was down in New Smyrna at the World Series of Asphalt doing the Governor's Cup and stuff. And I truly believe he was ready to go. But then certain things started to happen. The economy here in Newfoundland started to turn down with the oil industry. And so a lot of our plans have been put on the back burner. But one of the things that you'll probably see shortly is that the kids that started with us, our NX program, the Bandolero kids, we got a young girl named Sarah Thorne who's 17 years old. She's going to college doing engineering. She's won 2 Advanced Autoparts NASCAR Series events this year. She's applying for the NASCAR diversity program. We got another kid that started when he was 10, Owen Groves. We've got now, after 7 seasons, we're now seeing these young guns come up and giving the old guys a run. And these 17 to 20-year-olds are actually incredible drivers. They have the skill level. Michael Neary's been dominant. I think he only lost 2 races so far in the U.S. Legends. So the future's bright. Our Bandolero class continues to grow. And these young guns, I'm going to tell you, you're going to see Patty's dream is going to happen. His dream was always to have a driver in a touring series. We didn't quite make it with Josh Collins, and Josh Collins is not out. I mean, he may make a return to the Pinty series. There's some talks with that. I believe he actually has one now in his own stable with the rest of his fleet. But I can guarantee you got a couple of these young guns that you're probably going to see in the touring series.
Is Josh racing at Eastbound at all? I haven't heard of him. I haven't heard from him for a while.
He returned this year. He took a year off last year during COVID. We only ran 3 races, but he's doing a great job. Actually, it's fun to see him back in full form. But we introduced a new rule this year. So he missed the first couple of events, and a couple of guys had really figured things out at the early parts of the season. But we put a new MSD box chip rule into our late models at 5,800 RPM. So. The last couple of races, he's been there in the front. He's been fighting with the guys like Wayne Walsh and Jason Groves, our 2 NASCAR champions. I have a funny feeling he has a strong record of winning the 150, which is our inaugural big race of the year. You might see the 56 out front this weekend.
Cool. You talked about this a little bit with Patty bringing cars over, but tell people the challenge. You just talked about the evolution out there, which is incredible. And that's what we wanted our listeners to hear, is what you guys have done for the sport on the Rock, because I knew it. It's cool for Mark and our listeners to hear about this, but it's not easy, man. There's 2 ways on that island, an airplane or a ferry, and there's no McCall's or Port City out there. So all the higher end cars are built on the mainland somewhere. And they don't just pop up out of the ground. So yeah. I know how a lot of them got there. So just tell us about that challenge and how it was. I know you put cars ahead of drivers, and how did you guys do that?
Well, that salute goes to Pat Squires himself. 80% of the fleet at the beginning came imported by him. And what they were doing was they'd run a car for a race, sell the car, or work with the team. I mean, I don't know how much parts and cars he's given away over the years, but fundamentally, a salute to Pat Squires for building the sport here. We were up to 22 late model sportsmen there for quite some time. This economy and COVID kind of snagged it back, but we're now slowly building up. But one of the great things about Newfoundland is it's very difficult to import them. Once you get them here, they don't leave. So we have a field of about 60 cars now on the island that actually compete with us. There's probably 80 on the island, and generally they don't leave, which is a good thing because up in Nova Scotia or even in Ontario, you put up a car, that car might end up in Quebec, it might end up in Saskatoon, it might be, it's so much easier to purchase cars. But one of the great things, an asset for us, is once the cars are here and the early motion of that from Pat, it just continued to build and build and build and build.
We spoke of the challenges of getting the cars there and obviously, either it's got to be by plane or boat. And that used to be the case for Prince Edward Island as well before the Confederation Bridge was built. And my wife is from Prince Edward Island and her mom is from a little place, I guess we're going to call that up west, Alex, in Tignish.
Yeah. Whatever.
And I used to live there.
Yeah, she has a saying. So I was going to ask you, she has a saying there. And she says, "Oh, that's weak, good coffee." And, it made no sense to me whatsoever. But Mike, does that make sense to you?
Yeah. I lived at a lot of places in my life: Chicago, Atlanta, Ottawa, Toronto, Hamilton, and PEI and Calgary. Everything has to be shipped in and, comes by boat or Ocean X or whatnot. So, our vegetables aren't as fresh when you go down to Market Fresh in Ottawa. But that's just the way it rolls. Our agricultural here, for instance, they make a good cabbage, they make good potatoes, the old Irish fixins, it's a challenge to get stuff here, but we roll with it. And there's daily transports. They got a wicked operation with Ocean X out of Montreal that's in here 3 or 4 times a week. So I think it all kind of started to change a little bit once Costco landed on the rock.
For sure. Yeah, I remember when I came out and it was a bit stormy and windy, and Mike said to me, "It might take you about 3 or 4 days to get home because they're not going to let you leave the rock in the plane," which was okay with me. I just don't know if my liver could have handled it, but it was would have been just fine with me. I can't wait to get back. Listen, before we do get you out of here, you talked a couple times about your final weekend, this coming weekend, and just tell us what you got going on.
It's the inaugural 150. It's every year we do the 150. It's our biggest race of the year. In 2014, I don't know if you're familiar with Dylan Gosby out of Prince Edward Island. He was the first 150 winner. Collins has taken quite a few of them. And, it's the end of the year. It's a celebration of champions. We're going to crown our NASCAR champions this weekend, our Bandolier champions and our U.S. Legend champions. And it's a celebration of the motorsport. One of these, I remember about 3 years ago, I think it was Pat or one of the boys went down to the tech shed and said, "You know what, guys, you've had a crazy year. You've been banging on each other. You're beating each other up. But this race here is about going out there and having a bit of fun. Don't get in the way of the champions that are running for points and that, and just go out and enjoy it." And we've seen some fantastic races on the 150. Now it'll be interesting this weekend because, as you know, there's a tire shortage across the USA and Canada. So I think they'll allow a little tire softener this weekend. But, it's the DRL Coach Lines 150. Glad to have them on board for the first time at the track. And it's going to happen Saturday. Now, Hurricane Sam is en route to us. We're going to find out what happens with the hurricane once it gets past Bermuda. But I'm really hoping that we can get it in this weekend and so that we don't have to go deep in October. But we just went on sale about a couple hours ago. Actually, it's a late on sale. You can get tickets at eastboundpark.com. And I checked there earlier and tickets are selling pretty fast. So it's going to be a good show. We're looking forward to it. And, 2022 is a big year. We got a lot of big announcements coming. Monster trucks will probably be in the schedule again. And I feel that the 2022, that hopefully the COVID will be behind us with the vaccines now out and stuff like that, that we can see a light at the end of the tunnel. And we get back to the years of 2015 when Alex was on the ground. We had Nitro Circus that year. We had several different concerts. We had a banner year with about 100,000 people visiting the park that year. So that's what we're looking forward moving into the future. A gentleman from the IHRA said, basically they'll die trying.
Yeah.
And that's the way the Squires family work. And it's been a pleasure to be with them for 8 years, and still kicking strong with these guys and bringing the excitement to the Rock. And always a pleasure to have you guys reach out and stuff, because I got a funny feeling, Alex, you're going to see Mike James in Toronto very soon.
Nice. That'll be good. Make sure we'll catch up.
Hey, Mike, you mentioned go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Just I think we're going to go back to doing some off-island racing and have a bit of fun.
Okay.
Mike, you mentioned your website a moment ago. Any other social media information you want to give out to our listeners?
Yeah, you can find us on Facebook. We're on Instagram. I dabble at the Twitter, but I'm pretty busy with a lot of stuff that we do here. So I kind of stick to the Instagram and Facebook. But find us on Facebook. You'll see all the details. We usually do. We got a new videographer this year who's doing some wonderful videos and highlights. With this new Elon Musk Starlink, one of the challenges we had was to actually do live broadcasts. So I think in 2022 you'll probably see some of these Eastbound races on the stream.
That'll be great. Looking forward to that. Yeah, the Starlink thing's definitely opening up some doors for everybody in the rural parts of everywhere in North America. So that's cool. Listen, we gotta get you going here. I know you guys got a lot going on to finish up this week. We really appreciate you spending time with us, and please, hopefully Patty hears this. And but if he doesn't, make sure you say hi to him for me. Miss those guys and yourself, of course. And hey, keep those kids rolling. Pretty soon you'll have half of Newfoundland will be at your house.
Well, my wife won't let me go to the annual regatta, which has 100,000 people, because she said I'd impregnate the whole province. So I don't know what's going on, but it's great. We got a family of 7 and 5 kids, and they're all amazing specimens. My middle child now, she's been asking for a race car. She's only 7 years old, and it scares me how dominant she might be in the sport. So cool. You may see a little Carly James on tour soon.
Thanks again, Mike, for spending some time with us today, and all the best to you, and best of luck this weekend.
100%. Thanks for having me on. Great job.
Well, we're wide open sideways.
All right, you're clear.
The talk is cheap.
You're clear on this.
We got the foot to the floor. There's only driver in deep.
We'll be on the inside of you. All right, you're clear. Got a plug up coming up on your inside. All right, you're clear. You're clear on this. We'll be on the inside of you. All right, you're clear.